Come join us as we dive deeper behind the scenes of security and cybercrime today, interviewing top technology leaders from around the world and sharing true cybercrime stories to raise awareness. From the creators of Vigilance, the newest global technology newsletter, translating cyber news into business language we all understand. So please help us keep this going by subscribing for free to our YouTube channel and downloading our podcast episodes on Apple and Spotify so we can continue to bring you more of what matters. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and now the show. Well, welcome everybody to Cybercrime Junkies. I'm your host, David Morrow, and in the studio today, we're very excited about this episode. It's been coming for a while. We've been working on getting our special guest in. And in the studio today is my always positive, sometimes absent co-host, Mark Mosher. Mark, how are you this morning, sir?
I am nothing but consistent.
You are nothing but consistent. That is true. So
that is right. That is right. This is going to be a great episode, David. Tell the listeners, who do we have in the studio with us today?
We do. We've got Omar Masri, who is a very internationally renowned software entrepreneur, founder, and CEO of Memori.io. And he's worked with some of the biggest names in business and in security, including Dell. He's been a leader in the industry for years. Omar, welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you for having me, David. Glad we could finally get
together.
together.
Absolutely. Well, you're a jet-setting world traveler, and so it's exciting to kind of get you while you're in the mainland today. So that's great. So we're really excited about this because I think you've really driven and identified a really important void in cybersecurity for small, mid-sized businesses. But please tell everybody, let's back up just a second. Tell everybody what your current role is, what the current organization is. But then we want to hear about, how your origin story, how it all started.
Sure. So currently I'm the CEO of Memori. Memori is a kind of a startup cybersecurity software company that has, it's a little bit different than your traditional security software companies selling stuff. And it was kind of born, we started around right before COVID, similar when you started this podcast, right before COVID.
Yep.
And yeah, so it's a little different. And our goal isn't to sell a particular feature in cybersecurity. It's to actually help business owners to just secure their businesses, right? Whether it be on-premise, really old stuff, or all in the cloud, doesn't really matter to us. So we've kind of innovated in a way that we can just, whatever you kind of need, we can help you cover the gap. If it's everything, if you got nothing, it does it. And if you already have stuff, you can keep what you have and just cover the gap. That's kind of our mission, is to actually make it possible to implement the best practice recommendations. So what we've found is that recommendations from all the government agencies are actually quite simple. Hey, follow these 8 things.
Mm-hmm.
And in theory, it's kind of simple. It's almost like secure your house. Yeah, you get a lock, get some windows, But in practice, business owners are actually finding it cost prohibitive to actually go and implement the 8 things. One, they don't know, do I do them all, or do I just do 3?
Right.
Or, and then I can't afford to do them all, and who can do them for me, right? So,
well, that's a great cause.
There's a big
it's a great cause, because that is the sector that Mark and I live in every day, and we speak to business owners, leaders, and they have security concerns. They all do, right? And they don't necessarily know where to start, and like you just said, whether they should do all of them, what levels should they start with, etc. So I love your platform because it really allows them to try things out at no cost, which is great. And really It helps guide them through kind of a security maturity, right? As like we always think of like the Gartner maturity scales and things. And that's one of the things that we coach clients through is just, take time and money out of the equation. Let's find out what you need, given your industry and your go-to-market strategy, your data, right? And then from there, kind of come up with a roadmap to kind of get you there eventually. And
Correct.
Memoria is a great step. Like it's a really holistic approach. It's fantastic.
Correct. So, and just in the past week that I've been here in the U.S., visiting customers and stuff, a couple of hacks happened to companies that we care about and need help. So, I was at University of Michigan. Apparently, some investigator hacked into their servers to try to assign stealing stuff. And but even worse, I have a buddy who has a business in they do software for EMS businesses. All the transporting patients, stuff like that. And some of these small, medium dispatching businesses, they have infrastructure and they have Exchange servers. Two of them got ransomware, right? Literally just got ransomware.
Yep.
So, and it was a simple attack. If they just would have had a Memori server there, it wouldn't have happened, right? So, so right now we're just working through making a one pager, and it's free for them. They're a small shop. They have less than 17 employees, right? So it's not like it's like there is no reason for these small businesses to just keep to be exposed, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. Is just get out there and say, hey, if you're a small medium business and you have infrastructure, it's a no-brainer. Just download Memori. We'll help you install it, and so you can stop giving your money away to ransomware hackers.
Well, yeah, and so let's circle back to something that you said, and that's about like controls are simple, right? When you talk about controls, what do you, just for the listeners or people that are watching, kind of what, just to explain what those are?
Yeah, so if you look at every country, every region, there's like in the U.S., there's publications about, hey, these are the recommendations for you as a business of how to secure.
We
yourself.
have NIST, we have NIST, we have CISA, FBI, like so many different organizations, CIS controls, CIS. So there's various controls. And when we say controls, we really mean like standards, best practices, right? Recommendations.
Correct, best practice standards. And if you get down to it, so really what people actually find it hard to do is the access management. So people usually go with their email protection, right? Because if you use Gmail or Office 365,
everybody can relate to that.
Kind of take
everybody uses email. Everybody can do it.
Yeah, right? That's right. So that's okay, unless you're still running in your own email server, which is very rare. Everyone's got the cloud, so that they're kind of covered. Laptops now have at least built in. People turn on their antivirus, so the endpoint protection at a base level, it's okay, right? And then it's when it's the access to now the infrastructure. How do I get to if I have my own Exchange server, how do I get to my own database? How do I kind of protect that? And that's where people start to kind of fall apart. And then some people hire consultants, and they have developers and in different parts. People are working remote. So the problem became more complex, especially post-COVID. People like to work 3 days a week at home and 2 days. So it's like the infrastructure is kind of spread out. So how do you handle the controls around your infrastructure? And there's different ways to do it. And this is where executives get in trouble, because executives sometimes for the businesses aren't technology experts. So they just trust.
They're not, right?
Hey, they actually, that's right. They just trust. Hey, they actually call sometimes their competitors and say, hey, what are you doing to protect yourself? Actually, right? Let's work on this together. It's like that's usually happens. That's what kind of banks all kind of do the same thing, and telcos kind of do the same thing, and law firms do the same thing. They all kind of do. That's their ecosystem, right? Of friends and enemies, so to speak. Yeah, so we help with Memori helps you with the controls. So we make it so you don't have to be a super cybersecurity expert, technical person to deploy a Memori server, for example, right? And in some regions, where actually people are like, hey, how about you just send us a box? So we have some partners that are actually just making a little appliance, and they just install it somewhere and plug it in and configure it. Right? So which controls are we actually talking about? It's the two-factor of everything.
Right.
That's one of the first things, the recommendations is
Multi-factor authentication.
if we could just verify.
And for those listeners, like multi-factor authentication, we all use it. You use it, right? It is where they verify the device that you're using through another source. Meaning, if you're trying to get into email, you're trying to get into a work system, right? It has to send you an authentication through an application on your phone or an iPad or something like that. It's another way of verifying the device.
Correct. Yeah. So 2FA. And now at Simple, the government says, hey, 2FA everything you have. Now it sounds simple.
It's
right?
an easy thing to
And
say.
practice,
it's easy to recommend.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, but in practice, it's hard for businesses. Why?
They have 50
the
different
software
systems. They have 50 different applications, right?
Yeah, right. How do you do that for all of them?
Heaps of applications, and then only the modern ones are integratable with the modern 2FA things. Right. Solutions like Okta. So let's say, great, I'll buy Okta or Duo to 2FA everything, or Microsoft.
Well, Okta has had its own issues lately, right?
Well, that's right. That's right. They have had issues. That's right.
Yeah, there's that.
That's right. But then, but what if I have things that aren't SAML enabled or OID enabled? So the hackers attack. So whatever you implement, look, it's no different than trying to secure your house. To me, cybercrime is just like any other crime, right? If you want to secure a house, you have to. You can't just get a front door. You have to protect your windows and make sure they have a lock, or you have to put in some cameras, or make sure you have a back door and that's locked. So, so what's happening with the issue with cybersecurity right now is that people do what they can.
Do what they can,
right? So instead of doing everything, because everything is too hard, they just do what they can, or what they're legally required to do by an auditor.
Right.
Which means they have gaps.
Which brings up the issue of compliance versus security, right? Like you can be compliant, you can be checking the boxes and have everything. That does not mean you're secure.
It doesn't mean they're secure. That's right. So you hear companies who have CyberArk, they have Thycotic, they have Imperva, they got all these things and they still get hacked. Why? Because the hackers aren't dumb. They go, oh, you got CyberArk in this, I'll find the one that you're not protecting because it doesn't integrate.
Right.
So, and I'll attack the gap, right? So this is why it's funny. So hackers' techniques it's not like hackers have become smarter. They're not like, aliens that aren't from this planet that have this super technology. No, they're using the same techniques, sort of infecting a machine, scanning what's around there, finding what you haven't secured, finding your open window or unlocked door.
That's exactly right. That's exactly the analogy that we use all the time.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is, I've kind of given up trying to educate business owners on, hey, here's all the things you have to cover, because they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about half the time or more. So I'm like, here, just install this. Right? and there's actually, I tell them, look, there's only 5 things that people want to get to. They want to get to a database, a Linux box, a Windows server, an internal web application, or a file drive, like a network drive. That's it. On the planet, there's only 5 things that people need to get to. I can protect those 5. Just install this thing, and to those 5 things that you have to get to, just make sure you're going through Mamori, right? So the big difference with I'll give you an example of how Mamori kind of helps out, right? So let's say you do have an Okta or a Duo. With an Okta or a Duo, you can 2FA your application access pretty easy. And I think you can do your SSH access, things like that, right? Now, what if you had things that you didn't have, like a domain controller, right? Or you want to secure like your routers and your switches. So what Mamori can do is, hey, we can 2FA on IP access. So anytime this device tries to go to any IP address that's allowed, right, we'll send you a 2FA via your preferred 2FA provider. We covered the gap, right? So so we're doing a lot of work with operational infrastructure, like power plants and water treatment plants. They don't even have an AD.
Right.
They don't even have an AD service, right? So when an auditor comes in and says, okay, we want you to 2-factor everything, they're like, you want us to upgrade? We have to install a domain controller into this plant, right?
Exactly.
And install.
They're still running like 2008 and 2003 servers right now.
That's right. That's right. They have like shared workstations. Right. I mean, they have, from a SOC perspective, they have SOC, right? So room within room, and you have ID cards and this and that. But they don't have any. They have very few modern facilities to affect. But you know what? They don't have to do through a very expensive upgrade. No, a memory server, 2FA on IP. They meet the auditing requirement, and they're actually secure. So we've done in Singapore. There's a company that does. They simulate OT playpens, and they have hacking
Yep.
events, right? And we were invited. We were invited to a hacking event. We had blue teams and red teams.
Was it like
So
capture the
obviously
flag, or what was it?
Yeah, well, yeah, they set up like a plant. So you have your machinery, your SCADA systems. So because basically it's used by like maritime. 'Cause ships and plants are kind of similar. They're kind of these self-enclosed environments, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we put the memory server, and then the other people were kind of started to complain because once the memory server was in, then the companies that were detecting hacks had nothing to do because the hacks could just never happen. So you know what I mean? So there are some vendors that help you. They alert you if a hack is
Correct.
happening, right? So the monitoring vendors, right? But we basically once you install Memori, it's just not possible to go through certain. Basically, we closed all the doors. So then we were asked, "Hey, can you guys not participate in this one? Because then otherwise the hackers can't hack, and then we can't. The competition is kind of boring." Right?
So
Right.
yeah. So in short, like it did really well against that.
Yeah. So we were invited to the other competition, which is where
Interesting.
So it's like, okay, no problem.
So let's
Yes.
let's dive a little bit deeper. So it's a physical box that they put on, or is it a virtual thing that they download?
So it's a software. So it's a software appliance, if you want to call it that. So it's you can deploy it on your own server. In certain regions, people like to receive a
Physical box.
device and they just install it. So the partners there have just made a device for them because that's what they feel comfortable in
Yep.
buying, right? But yeah, it's just a download. You install it on an Ubuntu box or Red Hat. It doesn't really matter to us. Or Hyper-V if you like to run Windows. Yeah, and then you just configure it, and it's essentially you use the modules that you need.
Who
Right,
configures
so
it? Does
whether
Memoria configure it, or does the internal IT or whoever their provider is?
so if the company has a security team, we usually work with them to show them how to do it. If the business says, "Hey, I just want you to do it for me," then we usually have partners that can help you configure it. And then if you say, "Hey, I want you to do just remote support, just you take care of everything," we also offer just sort of cloud, sort of memory servers, and then we plumb it into your kind of network, whether it's a virtual private cloud or an on-premise.
Got it. Okay. And then everything basically flows through the memory device or
Yeah, that's
VM.
correct. That's right. So essentially, it could become like depending on what you need. So the first thing we try to do is we try to reduce the footprint of who has real VPN access to things, right? So let's say you have 100 employees or 20 employees, and right now they all have VPN because they're all working
Right.
remote. A traditional VPN, that's a big exposure because if one machine gets infected, it could infect more. So that's the first thing we try to shut down. It's like, all right, who actually needs VPN access? Because with the Memori server, you can get access to all those machines without VPN, right? So you can get web only access. You can say, okay, here's a link for you. You don't need no more VPN for you. You don't need direct IP access to anything. Here's a link. They log onto a portal. From that portal, they can SSH to any machine they need to. They can RDP. They can run basic SQL for whatever database they want. They can access file shares and just do whatever they need to do from that web portal. And it makes it great for the admins because you don't have to worry about if their laptop gets infected, you don't care, right? So now for the people who actually need direct IP access, then you use a modern kind of ZTNA solution, right? And that's what you turn on that module, and then that device is registered. So even if it activates, right? It has a virtual. We create like a virtual network in between the real network and that
Mm-hmm.
device. That device gets put into this virtual network. So even if it gets infected, there is no risk of lateral movement. And something that we also do that most VPN systems don't have is scanning is a permission. Because
So
basically, if you think
explain
about
that.
it, this
Yeah,
is
you had mentioned that when we first were speaking. So
scanning is a permission. So this is the key thing. This is what actually stops
yeah.
ransomware. Imagine in your house, right? Let's imagine someone broke into
Mm-hmm.
your home, right? Now, the fact that he's in your house, he hasn't stolen anything
Right.
yet. When he starts to look around and walk in your house and he finds
Right.
something, that's when the attacks that's when it gets serious. Now, what happens if he walks into your house and now he's blind? Now it's like a blind guy has broken into your house. What he can steal, right? It's like, in fact, you feel sorry. In fact, you're worried he might
Right.
fall
Yeah.
over in some states and he's going to sue you.
You're
It's
worried
like,
about the
please,
threat
please.
actor. Like, can you please not
That's right.
trip?
That's
Don't
right.
hurt yourself.
That's that's right. So if you look at what all these bots do, so we kind of assume. So Mamoni always takes the position that the hacker already has your
Right.
credentials. The hacker has already infected a machine, and he's in. So how do we stop that? And what we do is scanning is blocked, right? So unless your credential or your device is actually allowed to run scans,
Meaning, let's say they
we
had a
will block
vulnerability
any scans.
management program that they were running just to find vulnerabilities or to test. That would be allowed,
Yep.
right? You would allow that, but then you wouldn't allow other
Yeah.
people, anybody else, to scan.
Correct. Yeah. So yes, if you try to run SIN scans or any
Right.
sort of scanning, the moment you try to say, "Hey, I'm looking, just scan, show me what's in this network," you just get back nothing. Just nothing. Nothing. You just get back nothing. But not only that, whoever owns this device that you're on, because we 2FA on IP access, as it's scanning and it finds something that's actually like a real IP in a network, it's going to send the 2FA to the owner of this device. So one, you're going to get pinged, hey, why is my phone going crazy? And then we also alert the admin, hey, someone's running an unauthorized scan. And after a certain while, we just lock that device. So that's how you really stop ransomware. It's like you can try your best for to try to stay ahead
Mm-hmm.
of the curve on the things that infect machines, which is like your Windows Defender, and that's someone else's thing. But you reduce the footprint of who actually has IP access.
Mm-hmm.
That's step one. Two, you 2FA on IP, so you microsegment, and then you restrict the things they can get access to, and then you prevent scan. You have your intrusion detection. Right?
So
You're
right.
scanning.
So
Yeah.
okay. So this is really interesting. So how does so what's the? Let me ask you. Let me ask you this way. I apologize. So, what is the ideal client for this environment? Probably not too complex, I would imagine, right? Like not necessarily like a 50,000 user, multiple country, vast infrastructure organization, but that the ones that struggle the most are the 20-person, the 50-person, the 120-person manufacturing company or consulting group or whatever, and they're dispersed. They're using a lot of SaaS programs, but they'll still have a little bit of infrastructure, and people are all over. They have terrible cyber hygiene habits. This sounds like it would be ideal for that group, which is like the one
So
that
yeah,
needs it the most.
correct. Where the problem is most acute is where you've just
Yeah.
stated. So the big 50,000 person org, they can afford the SecOps
Right.
team.
Exactly.
Right? They will have something and etc. Where it hurts the most is like you're saying, you have, hey, I'm a mom and pop shop, or
Yeah.
I'm a small manufacturer, or I'm a this, but I'm starting to grow. I'm finally making money. I'm
Mhm.
growing. And that's right, but they don't have the cyber maturity, and they don't even know who to talk
Right.
to about some of this stuff. Right? So it's
Yeah.
yeah, this is best for them. So our pedigree was to build productivity tools. So no matter what it is, my job is to. So back in the day, it was databases. Databases came out. We made we made it so anyone could be a DBA, right? You don't have to go and get a degree and to be a DBA to do what a DBA does. That's kind of what we built. Same thing. Our goal is to help anyone implement best practice without even knowing. So I guess in cybersecurity is I kind of given up and trying to explain, hey, here's all the 20 features, and here, it's more about, hey, just install this and just do your natural thing of accessing. Just do what you normally do, right? So actually, I tell people this: you deploy Memodi, we'll configure it, right? We'll help you configure it, and then the next day, just do what you normally did. Just, the only difference is you'll have to click on your phone, when the two factors, but everything else should just be exactly.
Yeah, you have one slight inconvenience to save your organization's brand. Just verify that it's actually you, and you're going to be okay.
Yes. Yeah, because really the best security is security that's transparent in my mind. It's almost like when the TSA got really clamping down. It's like you go to the airport and you're like, oh, it's massive line. Then good security is you don't even know it's there, right? You don't even know it's there, and you're just secure. So
that's fantastic. And this is a really kind of very practical approach to don't worry about it. We've got you, and you'll install this, and it'll be a two-factor that everybody kind of has to deal with anyway. And you've got a really good layer of security.
Right. So as the business is growing, we kind of primarily focused sales.
The problem is that cybersecurity has a need globally. So you've come up with something really good. So you're going to have to hit a lot of time zones here.
That's right. So as that team now cannot kind of stand on their own 2 feet, the issue for me is more of when do I get to sleep?
Yeah.
Right? So if I sold everywhere at once and can't sleep. So so now they're self-sufficient. That's why I'm now more focusing on the Americas, right? I went reverse to what we typically do. Typically, you build it out in the U.S. and then you roll it out globally, right? That's the typical pattern back in.
We're the guinea pigs for the world. Yeah, I mean, plus most of us still have password as our password, and it's just all part of being American. It's not our problem until it becomes our problem.
Yeah, so sadly, the U.S. is getting this last. So that's right.
Well, you heard it here first, everybody. That's the important part. So
yes, that's right. This is just the marketing is just starting in the U.S. Great. We're working out. I think when I look at the stats on the cyber attacks, the trends, the attackers seem to be really going for the medical sector and the insurance sectors. And I think they're trying to go for. I don't know why. I'm guessing it's patient records. It's probably data rich.
It is. Yeah, they sell for quite a bit. We present and we do a lot of public speaking and training, awareness training for healthcare organizations and associations as well as others. And we were just doing a whole bunch of them in the last several weeks. And it's just exploded in the last couple. It's always been bad. It's always been a very, attack rich vector, but it's just been exploding recently.
Yeah. That's for example, these two companies just got ransomware this week. It was their medical transfer companies, right? So they had. Anyways, they got attacked. Yeah. So I think if we can help. That's why I'm trying to say, okay, if you're in that space, I know you don't have like a massive IT department, et cetera. I kind of know the profile of the business. Just download this thing, give us a ring. We'll help you install it. We're trying to get it programmed so we can, blast the ones that we know. Hey, if you have infrastructure, here's a way you can protect yourself. Because they're going after them. It's kind of sad. I heard about the trend last year. I'm like, oh, we should do something to protect this segment. And then you just see them getting hammered. It's kind of
what's tragic. Yeah, it's tragic because I come from a family
because they have very tight margins. Yeah. I mean, the government's changing. They're getting squeezed on the reimbursements.
It's they're getting really tough.
Increase in the staff. Yeah. The last thing they need is some guy to break into their server and then charge them, the $10,000. It's like I don't have the $10,000 to pay you for your.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So how does it, and maybe it's not even relevant, but how does it address SaaS programs that some of these smaller organizations will use, right? I mean, larger organizations will use SaaS as well, but let's say there's an organization that does a lot of SaaS. They have, software as a service, they're using their accounting system online, they're using this and that. And they might have one or two, they might have a server and a firewall for like files or Active Directory or something like that, but they're really doing that. Does Memori get involved with the SaaS, or is it just kind of it's separate because it doesn't need to really be
So what
connected?
we found, so
That's
this is a common question. So what we found is most modern SaaS services, they're already baking in the
They
2FA
are.
into their,
Yep.
if you like, like
Yep.
MYOB or their accounting package, or so actually that's pretty safe. So as long as you enable that feature, you're kind of
Right.
good, right? And we recommend, hey, turn on turn on the 2FAs for your SaaS
Mm-hmm.
program. And then when you just sort of listed some items there, the question is, what about the other stuff, right? Because the hackers will hack your vulnerabilities,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can't just protect your
Right.
apps. You have to protect your little file share server if it's got something
Right.
valuable, right, that you care about. That's
Or if
what
it's got
Mori is. So
access
this is
to
why.
something that's valuable, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. So it's like this is why for small business we just say just
Mm-hmm.
use it. We're not going to charge you for it because it's just deploy it and then protect that one or two couple things you have, and you're good to go. Right? At least you're covered. Yeah. Basically, stop running naked. Um, there's no need to run naked on security anymore because it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
free, right? So.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, we'll have links to the show notes. We encourage people that are interested in finding out more to check out Omar's new baby that he has that he's rolling out across the world at Memori.io. But tell us about what got you to begin in cybersecurity originally. Like what was it? Like we've interviewed hundreds of people from around the world. They've been FBI agents, hackers that have gone to prison, that have come out that now are helping secure organizations. We've talked to global CISOs. Like everybody has an origin story. It's so different. Like some people came from marketing, they had history degrees. Like I don't even understand how that transgression even happened. Like how did you
That's
how
right.
did you
That is an odd one. Marketing to cybersecurity.
yeah, it happens. It's so odd. So
Yeah.
so
Well, maybe they were spamming. They got, hey,
I
I'm
know I'm
really good
really
at
good at this
spamming people.
stuff.
That's right.
I'm really like you know what it is as marketers. They're like, I'm really good at social engineering. Let me get into this cybersecurity
So,
thing.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah, I'm
understand it.
social engineering
yeah.
people every day. Tell us kind of where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Australia or did you grow up somewhere else?
No, so I grew up. So I was. My family is very complicated in terms of. So I grew up in. I was born in El
Okay,
Salvador.
interesting.
When the war started, we moved to the
Yep.
U.S. Right. So I grew up in
Mm-hmm.
Florida, and then I guess in my early 20s, sort of moved to Australia. Right.
Interesting.
Um,
What drew you to? Do you mind
so
if I
the
ask? We can always edit this out
sure.
later. What
Oh no, go ahead.
what drew you to Australia? Like from Florida, maybe
Oh no! So
Texas, but
my girlfriend at the time, she grew up. She grew
ah,
up
for
in
love.
Australia. So she moved to the U.S. I guess during high school, and then she wanted to go back and raise a family. And oddly enough, people who are Australian usually they love
Mm-hmm.
traveling and they love the planet. But then when they raise their kids, they
They want to
always
go
want to go
back.
home
Yeah,
for some reason.
makes
Yeah.
perfect
Hell
Yeah.
sense.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's a beautiful continent, country. It's phenomenal there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun. For raising, well, for it's extremely family oriented and a lot of sports and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
activities, and it's very
Yeah.
safe, extremely safe. I think the growing up in Miami and then
Yeah. There's a
you go to
little difference
Australia.
there. It's a little different.
That's right. And it's like I remember reading the newspaper. I'm like, kid got punched in the nose. I'm thinking, that's in the
Yeah,
news. It's
I know.
usually in Florida, it's like they don't even put the gunshots.
No, they don't at all.
Right. Right. Doesn't even make the
Yeah,
news.
they don't. It's really
Yeah, that's
bad.
right. So yeah, so there's a different level of
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's how I ended up in Australia, and then how I ended up in cybersecurity is actually completely, probably you never heard this one. So I was a partner at a VC, and we were investing in a lot of startups, and I kind of never even thought about security at all, right? I just assumed that it was a solved problem, right? People were securing stuff, right? And we knew about, large, these, very big and cybersecurity businesses that made a lot of money selling security, right? But then when you invest in startups, a lot of startups need to work with government. And to work with government, you have to be certified and do certain things and prove that you're kind of doing things properly, right? Now, in trying to secure these small businesses to prove that we're secure, I was like, wow, this is really hard. I realized is vendors make really good money selling features, right? So usually, because really from your business, let's flip the shoe. If I can make money just selling you a feature, why would I take the time to actually try to solve your problem?
Right.
You're not asking me to solve the problem. You're asking me to just give you 2FA. You know what? I'll give you 2FA then. It's so very few people go and say, no, what you really want is, it's almost like, hey, if I can just sell you a tire, then, and you're never asking for a car, I'll just sell you the tire, So really, it's a problem of vendors are making, CyberArk sells you the PAM, and Purva sells you the DAM, SailPoint sells you the workflow. It is up to you to put your car together.
Right.
So really, the industry spending $300 billion or close to $300 billion in cybersecurity spend, and everyone is walking around with a tire, thinking they have.
Right. That's a great analogy. That's a great analogy.
So I was like, okay, and that's why no one kind of has ever. So I think the trend in cybersecurity is now that people actually want to be secure, business owners aren't stupid, because before 10 years ago
they didn't
people
care.
just needed tick my checkbox. Give me the features that I need to get this auditor.
That's exactly right. It was very.
But now it's like. Yeah, now it's not like that anymore. Hey, give me what I need because my insurance company won't give me insurance.
Or I don't want to be on the news. I don't want to be on the news, right?
Yeah. I don't want to be in the news. That's right. So now now there is no big vendor you can say, hey, secure me.
Right.
Because no vendor actually sells you security. They sell you 2FA. So the big lie is, what most people misunderstand is, now the sales guys will say, hey, if you get my tire, you're kind of
if you get my tire, you can cruise around town, but it's leaving out the part that you need the rest of the car, right? It's leaving out that part.
They leave it out, because the whole industry has been geared to just sell features.
So when you discovered this, was there an incident, or did you what led you to discover it? Like, was there an event in your life where you saw somebody speak, or there was something? Just curious.
It was actually the buddy who I'm here in Long Island. He just bought this place, and he's like, we were doing VC deals together. He's like the other half of my brain. I did like all the technical diligence, and he would do the sales diligence. And I would talk to him about this security stuff. He's like, Omar, I have no idea about security stuff. Just can we just secure them? So I was like, you know what? At a business owner level, so really I was just, okay, what do I need to make this simple for business owners? This really, my focus is, because really they're the ones that have to make a call. They're the ones that put their neck on the line. They're putting in the money for the business, and they're worried about their employees. And then they have this sort of, a hacker is someone they never see, using techniques they have no idea about, attacking things that are in the cloud that they can't. So it's very intangible. So I was like, okay. So the epiphany was, how do I just package it up? How do I just say, you know what? All right, Mike, do you know about, so business owners understand best practice standards, compliance. You say, hey, look, the government's recommending you do these 10 things. If you install this box, this will do 7 out of the 10. It goes,
there you go.
Great. And more importantly, but then they go, okay, but will it stop the ransomware? What do I need to stop? Yep, this will stop ransomware attacks, right? Because it has everything that's needed to stop, So what's needed, right? 2FA, microsegmentation, right? And intrusion detection, so stop the scan.
Yep.
So So even if a machine gets infected, the ransomware guy is blind. He can't see anything. He can't scan. Right?
Very good.
That's pretty much.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, we can thank Mike. You can thank Mike for the.
Well, that's good. We need to speak to the other half of the brain. Like just be like, how did you come up with it? It's so great. He's not technical. It's awesome. So
yeah, he's like, that's confusing. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and that's really interesting, especially the escalation of privileges and all that, by being able to kind of keep them blind, even if they get in and launch something, is really helpful. That's fantastic. So what's next for you and Memori?
Yeah, so really for Memori is just listening to the users and customers. So it's like how to make it simple to consume for these small and medium businesses is probably the thing. Getting the word out there so people don't get hacked without any reason. And just having fun building out the org, right?
That's fantastic. Well, that's great. Well, we wish you nothing but success. We will have links in the show notes, and I'm sure we'll have lots of other opportunities to speak because there's going to be a lot of need. We come across people every day that need things like this. So this is fantastic. Thank you so much, Omar. Thanks for your time. It was really interesting to learn about this, to learn about Memori, and to hear your drive and help for small businesses and small organizations. That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for having me.
See you, sir. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, that wraps this up. Thanks for joining, everybody. Hope you got value out of digging deeper behind the scenes of security and cybercrime today. Please don't forget to help keep this going by subscribing free to our YouTube channel at Cybercrime Junkies Podcast, and download and enjoy all of our past episodes on Apple and Spotify podcasts so we can continue to bring you more of what matters. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and we thank you for joining us.